Rome, 1972. The Coliseum stands in the background as two legends face each other in silence. Bruce Lee, 5'7", lean as a whip, stares across at Chuck Norris, the reigning karate champion, broader, taller, radiating confidence. The crew of the Way of the Dragon watches, cameras ready. But this isn't just another fight scene. Something deeper hangs in the air. Lee had insisted on Norris for this role, flew him halfway around the world. But now, standing in the ancient arena where gladiators once fought to the death, both men sense this will be more than choreography. This will be a conversation between philosophies, between East and West, between the man who seeks to prove everything and the man who has nothing left to prove. In the next 12 minutes, one will fall. But the real question isn't who wins. It's what victory actually means. Because sometimes the greatest battles aren't won with fists. They're won with understanding. 3 months earlier, Bruce Lee sat in a cramped office in Hong Kong, reviewing footage of his latest film. His eyes burned with that familiar fire, the one that had driven him from childhood poverty through Hollywood's rejection to becoming the biggest action star in Asia. But it wasn't enough. It would never be enough. "I need someone real," he told his producer, tapping the desk with restless fingers. "Not another actor pretending to know martial arts. I need a fighter, a champion." The producer hesitated. "Bruce, you've already proven yourself. Why risk dash dash?" "Because proof expires," Lee interrupted, his voice sharp. "Yesterday's victory is today's assumption. I need the world to see that what I teach isn't theory. It's truth." Deep down beneath the confidence, something else churned. Lee had spent years being told he wasn't enough. Not American enough for Hollywood, not Chinese enough for tradition, not big enough, not commercial enough. Every film was a battleground where he fought not just opponents, but doubt itself. And doubt, he'd learned, was the only enemy that never stayed defeated. That's when someone mentioned Chuck Norris, world middleweight karate champion, 6 consecutive titles. A man whose fists carried the weight of institutional validation. Every tournament, every trophy, every credential Lee had been denied by the martial arts establishment. "Get him," Lee said quietly. "Whatever it costs." Chuck Norris stepped off the plane in Rome carrying more than luggage. He carried the expectations of an entire system. The traditional karate world that had crowned him, the American martial arts community that saw him as their standard bearer, the students who revered his technique. When he met Bruce Lee on set, the contrast was immediate. Lee moved like water, fluid, unpredictable, alive. Norris moved like stone, solid, technical, perfected through 10,000 repetitions. They shook hands. Lee's grip was a coiled spring. Norris's was a vice. "I've seen your tournaments," Lee said, studying him. "Very impressive. Very structured." Norris smiled, but something in Lee's tone bothered him. "Structure is what separates martial arts from street fighting." "Or what turns warriors into performers," Lee replied, not unkindly, but not softly either. The first rehearsal revealed the tension. Lee wanted spontaneity, adaptation, reality. Norris wanted precision, form, the beauty of technique done correctly. They argued over every sequence. "This kick, it's all wrong," Norris said, demonstrating. "The chamber should be higher, the pivot more pronounced." "In a tournament," Lee countered. "But in a real fight, you'd be on the ground before you finish pivoting." Norris felt heat rise in his chest. Who was this smaller man to question techniques that had won him 6 world titles? What had Bruce Lee ever won in competition? Nothing. He was a movie star playing dress-up while real fighters like Norris earned their legitimacy in the ring. But he said nothing. Not yet. The breakthrough or breakdown came during a late-night discussion over dinner. The crew had left. Just Lee and Norris remained, picking at pasta, circling the real conversation, like boxers feeling out range. "You know what I respect about you," Lee began. "You've mastered your system." "Completely. But tell me, when was the last time you questioned it?" Norris set down his fork. "Why would I question what works?" "Because works is situational," Lee said, leaning forward, that intensity blazing. "Your karate works in tournaments with rules, weight classes, time limits. But real combat, real survival, it's chaos. You can't kata your way out of chaos. And your way is better? Norris's voice had an edge now. What you do, it's undisciplined. It's formless. It's formless because form is a cage, Lee shot back. You've spent so long perfecting the prison bars, you've forgotten they're meant to keep you in. The words hit harder than any punch. Norris stood, his chair scraping loud in the empty restaurant. Maybe we should settle this for real. No cameras, no choreography, just see whose philosophy holds up. Lee stood too, slower, his expression unreadable. You sure that's what you want? I'm sure I'm tired of being lectured by someone who's never competed. Something flickered across Lee's face. Hurt, maybe, or recognition. Tomorrow, he said quietly. The coliseum set. Dawn. That night, neither man slept well. Chucknorris lay in his hotel room, staring at the ceiling, and for the first time in years, he felt uncertain. His mind drifted back to his childhood. The poverty, the shyness, the asthma that made him weak. Karate had saved him, given him structure when life was chaos, given him power when he felt powerless. Those tournament victories weren't just trophies. They were proof he'd escaped, proof he mattered. But what if Lee was right? What if he'd become so attached to the system that saved him, he couldn't see beyond it? Across the city, Bruce Lee stood on his balcony, watching Rome sleep. His reflection in the glass showed a man who looked confident, but reflections lie. Inside, he felt the old wounds. Hollywood directors who said Asian men couldn't be leading men. Traditionalists who called his Jeet Kune Do blasphemy. His own father who doubted him. Every achievement felt temporary. Every victory felt like the world saying, okay, but prove it again. He thought about Norris, saw something familiar in the man's eyes. They were both fighting the same enemy, really. Both trying to justify their existence through excellence. Both terrified of being ordinary. The fight tomorrow wouldn't be about martial arts at all. Dawn broke cold over the Coliseum. They faced each other in the ancient stone arena. No crew, no cameras. Just two men and the ghosts of 1,000 gladiators watching. Norris struck first, a perfect reverse punch, textbook form. Lee slipped it, countered with a low kick that Norris barely checked. They exchanged combinations, each testing the other. Norris's technique was flawless. Lee's was formless. For 10 minutes they danced, neither gaining advantage. Then Norris landed a solid roundhouse that caught Lee in the ribs. Lee stumbled, and Norris pressed forward, sensing victory. But as he committed to a spinning back kick, tournament-winning technique, Lee simply stepped aside and swept his standing leg. Norris hit the ground hard. Lee could have finished it, could have proven his point. Instead, he stepped back, breathing hard, and extended his hand. You're right, Lee said. Your technique is perfect. Better than mine, maybe. But you know what I just realized? Norris, still on the ground, looked up, confused. This whole thing, me needing to prove Jeet Kune Do works, you needing to defend traditional karate, we're both just scared kids trying to convince the world we matter. Lee's voice cracked slightly. But the people who truly matter? They never need to prove anything. Norris took Lee's hand, let himself be pulled up, and in that moment something shifted. The fight drained out of both of them, replaced by something else. Understanding, maybe, or just exhaustion with the endless need to be validated. I don't want to fight you, Norris said quietly. I don't want to fight you either, Lee admitted. I want to learn from you, and maybe you can learn from me. The fight scene they filmed became legendary, not because it was choreographed, but because it was honest. Every strike carried real respect. Every block acknowledged real skill. When Norris's character fell in the final scene, Lee's character didn't gloat. He bowed. Critics called it the greatest fight scene in cinema history. But Lee and Norris knew the truth. The real fight, the one that mattered, had happened at dawn, between two men learning that strength isn't about never falling down. It's about who you become when you do. Bruce Lee died a year later, at 32, on the edge of international superstardom he'd never fully enjoy. But that morning in Rome, that was his real victory. Not over Chucknorris, over himself, over the need to prove, over the fear that he wasn't enough. Chuck Norris went on to his own film career, teaching martial arts for decades. But he never forgot what Lee taught him that dawn, that the most perfect technique in the world means nothing if you're a prisoner to it. Here's what they learned, and what we should remember. The people who have nothing to prove are often the ones who've already won the only fight that matters, the fight against their own insecurity. Kindness isn't weakness wearing a smile. It's strength that doesn't need an audience. And the quiet power of understanding will always defeat the loud power of ego. Because in the end, the greatest battles aren't won by those who never fall. They're won by those who fall, extend a hand, and rise together. Real strength bows to others, and that's exactly why it never needs to kneel.